Roger. Ready to move out.
It's Bell and Company. That's my pre-recorded Libby. I am Mario J. Bell of Bell and Company, and that you just heard her voice there. That's Libby, my co-host. Hey, Libby.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. And we have a really cool show today. Not that the shows aren't, other ones aren't that good, but this one's really neat. This is a friend of, and let me not forget to introduce him. Joe Brunker is here with us, as he is on every Sunday so far.
You should move in.
Except for one Sunday, you just told us off the air. So
yeah, I won't be able to do that one, unfortunately. But it'll be a fun weekend for me at least.
Yeah, I was
you
going to say you can call in.
I'll call in from Georgia.
We'll say hi. Be out of town. So yes, we got Joe Brunker with us, and we have a great guest, which is actually if you'd like to introduce that to your friend, I guess.
Oh yeah,
a while back.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. I didn't necessarily know Lindsay in high school, even though we went to high school together.
Okay, you saw her at least in the hallways and waved at her once.
Yeah, and she was also in choir, so like I'd see her at the choir concerts because I was in choir.
Okay.
I actually dated her sister. She was the first girlfriend I ever had in high school.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But you still didn't know her. Okay, well,
yeah, I dated her for a week, and like I just didn't know relationships back then or anything. So
oh wow, well that's pretty cool. So anyway, you guys go way back, but maybe didn't know you go way back.
Yeah,
let's welcome Miss Lindsay Gordon. Hi, how are you?
Hello, I'm great. How are you?
Good, hanging in there. I'm much better. I've said this over and over again, much better than I was 7 weeks ago. So
love that.
We're doing good. Yeah,
love
I had
that.
a little health scare, but we're good. We're here. We're having fun. And go ahead. Tell us a little more.
Yeah.
About
So
how you two know each other.
I saw her in college, and I was like, wait, I know that person, and
Right.
I was like, okay, wait. Okay. And then your sister told me when I said I was going to Olivet, she's like, my sister goes there.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, okay, cool. And then we ran into each other. And a couple of years after I graduated, I was going to publish my book on Amazon. And I decided to reach out to her because I had brought up looking up for an editor, and Lindsay had told me that, hey, I'll check that out. I'll edit it for you. And she did. She sent me back some notes, and I fixed a couple parts on there. So that was really helpful for me to self-publish on Amazon for the first time, give it a whack, you know.
And you had an experienced author, because that's why you're here today. You're talking about a couple of the books that you've actually written.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
And I can go ahead. I'll read right from your website if you don't mind.
Sure.
Again, it's Miss Lindsay Gordon, and you were a youth pastor, and your dog mom, it says on there. I
Yes.
like that. Got to mention the dogs.
Oh, always.
You're talking off the air. They're big dogs.
No. So I have a Shiba Inu.
Okay, that's not a big dog.
Yeah, he's like we call him Schmedium.
He acts like a big dog, is what you were just saying. Okay, I caught half of the conversation.
Yeah, he's a perfect apartment-sized dog. We'll go with that.
Cool.
But his name's Rocket, and he's my best boy.
Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. I love dogs.
Oh, us
We used to
too.
have
Yeah.
labs. They were kind of big.
I grew up with labs.
Yeah, we
they're
had
the
4 of
best.
them,
Yeah.
and we had, and I always thought this was weird. We had Dalmatians that kind of looked like labs, but obviously
Oh.
white with the spots. But
Yeah.
great dogs.
I
Love
bet your
dogs.
dog's ready to rock it when you go out to Princeton.
Oh yes. Oh goodness, yes.
Yeah, so we're gonna get into that in a second. But anyway, so I'm reading the bio. Dog Mom, obviously, author. You're here to talk about a couple of your books, and they're some of them are their poetry.
Yes, both of them are poetry.
Both of them are actually your poetry, which is great. So we'll get into that. But again, you know Joe pretty well, it sounds like, and you went to Olivet in.
I did.
Is that in what is that?
Bourbonnais.
Bourbonnais.
Yeah.
Thank you. I can never remember the name. The Bears are they still practicing down there?
Not anymore.
They
No.
stopped, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of which, there is a funny story on that. Like, I don't know, there was a couple students that worked for the summer camps.
Oh yeah, that was like a big thing that students would do.
And apparently
Yeah.
Jay Cutler like freaked out on one of them.
Oh,
really?
no.
I never heard that.
I never heard about that.
Yeah.
I mean that
and then his dad freaked out. on him.
unfortunately doesn't surprise me.
I know,
But
right?
yeah.
I know.
I'm sure it's a lot of fun down at Olivet with that going on. I mean, geez, but they're not there anymore. So now we'll
Yeah.
have another team probably come down there someday.
Maybe.
Who
Yeah.
knows? But
Which
yeah,
churches were you mainly a youth pastor at? for the time?
So most recently, I was at First Presbyterian Church in Joliet.
Oh, nice. And then
and
before that, weren't you at?
I was at High Point in Romeoville.
Okay,
I was
okay.
there for 2 years.
Right on,
Yeah.
right on.
Yeah.
So you were being a youth pastor, that gets you into wanting to write, or were you a writer before you decided to be a youth pastor?
So I have been writing my whole life.
Okay.
It's always been something that I have loved to do. Some of my earliest memories are me sitting in my family's living room playing with my mom's like old college typewriter,
Nice.
writing short stories about my stuffed animals. Like
with the old college typewriter.
Yeah, I just
Wow.
like it was a toy to me, and I just loved it. And I always used to tell myself that I wanted to be a writer, and so it was always just something that was fun for me. I always just loved being imaginative with it, and just loved to be creative. Growing up, that stayed with me. I always laugh at myself remembering in like junior high and high school, I had this spiral notebook that had Jack Skellington all over it that I can still vividly remember, that I would just write like the cringiest poems in that like
Nice.
I wish I could erase from my brain, honestly. But like
Now I want to see one of these.
You kept like a journal of poetry.
Wait, you said erase from your brain, which means you have memory of them. So you want to give us some lines?
I think those are going to stay locked in there. But those will die with me.
You're not still using the old typewriter, by the way, are you?
I actually did recently get like a vintage manual typewriter
Okay.
from a friend of mine that had just like found one in her garage.
Cool.
And she was like, "You want this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do."
That's
Like,
wicked.
but yeah,
Man,
my mom can't find hers anymore. But yeah, a friend of mine recently did gift me one that she had found from like cleaning out a family member's house.
And that was before you could go back and erase it either. Those are like the real old ones, right? You
Yeah.
have to get the whiteout on it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, writing is something that I have always loved to do. I always loved reading, writing, everything, being creative in that way. And then when I was going to college, my degree was English education. And so I got started as a teacher. I taught middle school for a couple of years and loved.
I was going to say, how'd you like that? How are the kids? They're
kind
of bratty kids at that age, right?
You know, everybody has a niche, right? Like everybody has a niche when it comes to age groups that they can connect with. I know that I would not excel teaching in like a preschool or an elementary school.
Okay.
In the same way that I
get
know that preschoolers and elementary school teachers feel that middle schoolers and high schoolers are not their niche. And
Okay.
so, you know, everybody's got their group. And so but I loved being in the middle school. And
Which
the same
is what, 6th, 7th, and 8th?
Yes.
graders?
Yeah. In the same way that like once I moved on to being a youth pastor, like that was still my niche. And so I still loved being able to have relationships with those age groups. And when I was teaching them, when I was teaching reading and language arts, I loved being able to encourage them creatively, encourage them to love reading, to fall in love with writing. And it was a joy for me. And you know, eventually I moved on. I felt like I was called to other things, but the love of reading and writing still stayed with me, even though it wasn't something that at that point, you know, I wasn't pursuing publishing. I wasn't even writing for fun a whole lot at that point yet.
Teaching takes up a lot of time, even though you get
It takes up a lot of time.
off,
Like,
right?
you know, a lot of my capacity that I felt like I had for writing was going towards lesson plans and stuff like that. And so by the time that I had free time, I felt like I was tapped out. But then
Totally understand.
But then I eventually came around to realizing like I'm just making a lot of excuses. Like, and so eventually I started to push myself to return to some of my old disciplines and habits that I had for having some regular writing practices.
I should say, like, write something every day, right?
Exactly.
What are your normal practices? How do you go about that?
Yeah, so I had a professor in college, my favorite professor. She was my creative writing professor, and then I had her for a few other classes as well.
Who was it?
Dr. Ingram.
I know the name. I did not have her.
She was the absolute best. I still keep in touch with her.
That's so cool.
And she was actually one of my recommendations when I was applying to grad school. And
phenomenal.
And she just was incredible. Like she was so inspiring in so many ways and really, really pushed me creatively. And at the beginning of the semester, she gave us all a composition notebook. And she had us decorate the cover with like magazine clippings, whatever we wanted, like words, all these different clippings and stuff. And she called them our serial killer covers. And so our assignment was to keep this notebook for the whole semester and just write in it every day. And we had to date our entries. We didn't have any kind of requirement on what we needed to write about or any sort of quantity or time frame or
but why the name serial killer covers?
Because it looked like a
all the
ransom note.
pictures.
Like,
with all the pictures and stuff. Yeah, gotcha,
with all the clippings.
That's funny. Okay.
And so we would just turn it in from time to time and she would check to see that we were writing every day. And that was it. Like she told us, she's like, you could just even write a sentence saying that lunch was really good that day. Like, it doesn't matter. Just write every day.
Was it really good?
It was.
Oh, good.
I mean, especially on chicken nugget mac and cheese day.
Yeah, I know. That's true.
Yeah.
Except
that was every Friday at Olivet.
although one time at Olivet, I did see like a raw, like a grilled piece of chicken, and there was still 2 little feathers on it.
Oh no!
Like sticking out of the chicken.
No.
I was like, what?
Oh, that's
College
rough.
food for you.
Oh man.
Sodexo.
Oh goodness. I mean, as long as it was only once, right? Like,
It was one time. One time.
I mean, one time in 4 years isn't that bad.
It was.
They just don't eat in their cafeteria.
Honestly, I loved their pizza all the time. I used to nosh it, like, or their breakfast biscuits and gravy.
Yes.
Oh my goodness! Like,
Yes. Oh man.
They
Making me
Old
nostalgic.
home
I know, right?
Well,
but
I don't know when you're
yeah.
going to get into. I'll just ask. How did it lead you to become a youth pastor then? How'd you get into that?
Yeah. So so I got my start teaching for 2 years, and even while I was teaching during my first year, I just kind of knew that I was being led elsewhere. I just felt just a calling on my heart that was saying that there's something different for me, and that led me to a lot of different places. That led me to connecting with a lot of different people. Like I was heavily connected with my home church, and just started building relationships with people, exploring what that meant for me. Just trying to network and cultivate mentorships with people who could speak into that for me and help me to explore what that could look like. And that led me to a lot of different opportunities. It really stretched my capacity for leadership within the church and helped me to explore different giftings that I had, and even gave me opportunities to work and even travel to different places. Like I got to build some relationships overseas with a couple of churches out in the UK.
Nice.
I got to do some like missional internships there and get to experience the church in a global context. And it was incredible. It really pushed me to explore just different avenues to use my gifts and my abilities, both as a writer and as a communicator and as a speaker, as a leader, as a teacher, just in different contexts.
It probably helped inspire the writing a little bit.
It really did. And it really just helped me to just broaden my perspective of what it means to be a teacher and a leader. And eventually, after exploring a few different avenues, that's when I landed my first full-time ministry job. And that's when I started at High Point, and I was there for 2 years. And
you weren't teaching and being a pastor, youth pastor at the same time then?
No. So after my second year of teaching, that was when I really knew that that the school system wasn't for me anymore. And it wasn't anything in particular that happened or anything like that. It was just that I knew that it wasn't my forever, and I never wanted to be one of those people that like woke up saying, I hate my job, I don't want to go. But like, I knew that I was living in that tension of this isn't where I'm supposed to be anymore. And I knew that if I stayed any longer that I would get there. And I didn't want to, because I didn't want to be one of those like burnt out, angry teachers, because I know my students deserve better than that, and they deserve better from me. And I knew that if I got to that point that my students would pay the price, and they don't deserve that. Like I've seen students take the brunt of that from their teachers. And
I've had a few in high school that were definitely like that. And then if you weren't trying, then they just don't want to deal with you anymore.
Exactly.
So you didn't want to be that
truly
person.
I never wanted to be that teacher.
Step down on that.
Yeah.
just because you knew that.
Yeah,
You
I mean,
know, like that's cool that you
when-
had that conviction.
yeah, like when I was student teaching, my cooperating teacher that I was student teaching under was very, very bitter and very, very burnt out, and even took it out on me as her student teacher.
Oh.
And so I didn't want to be that. And so, and like I saw what it did to her students, and like that negatively impacted my student teaching experience, and that influenced her students' experience the whole school year.
It had nothing to do with like the curriculum they wanted you to teach or anything like that.
No, it was just like I knew that there was something different for me. I knew that there was a different path for me to walk, and I'm so thankful that I took that step. I mean, it really was a big leap of faith, and it took me a couple of years before I even got to full-time ministry, but ultimately I feel like it was the path that I needed to take. It took me down a path of growth that I'm so thankful for. And I feel like it really prepared me for the last few years of ministry that I've been doing. And I'm just really, really grateful.
That sounds great.
It's good
I
you
know-
stepped on the water.
Yeah,
know?
thank you. Thank you.
I know Libby had some bad experiences with her schooling too, so
Yeah.
I'm sure she can relate to what you're
I
saying.
went to schools from hell.
Oh no.
Oh, really?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
What happened?
Catholic school, bullying, fights.
Oh,
My
no.
parents
Yeah.
also went
So
to
those
Catholic
teachers
school.
were
Yeah.
older too, I bet.
They just wanted a tuition check at the end, and then threw me out at the end of the year. And my parents made sure they paid the tuition. And June came around, and
At least that's how
sorry, you're
Libby
outta
feels.
here.
Was that back
Oh.
when they were still using rulers and like
No,
corporal
this is
We're not
punishment?
that old.
This is the
That's funny.
80s.
Okay,
it's
no,
not that old.
my parents were there in the 60s, so like
Oh yeah, my
that's the
dad has told
difference,
me
yeah.
plenty about that.
Well,
Yeah.
you were
Yeah.
in the public school, so they didn't do that kind of
Right,
stuff.
right.
I mean, back in the day, I think all schools did.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe
Oh,
in the
sure.
60s, up to the
probably.
70s.
Yeah.
I
I'm
think
guessing.
they all did. I think
Yeah.
in Texas they still do. Anywhere, public or private school, they still have like
Interesting.
corporal punishment. Like with the strap, whatever they call the thing. But anyway, that's not important. So you're not doing that anymore. You're now you're writing, obviously, but are you still working with the ministry too then?
Yeah, so that's the goal. So I just recently stepped down from my most recent position since I'm going back to school. And so I'm taking a break from full-time ministry so that I can pursue my full-time studies.
Where'd you get a full ride scholarship to?
Oh yeah,
Where was
yeah.
it?
Yeah,
so-
talk about it.
Yeah.
I was waiting for Joe to interject that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the big time now. Is
Yeah.
Princeton? Is that what I heard? off
Yes, yeah.
That is
I
awesome.
received a full ride
Congratulations.
scholarship to Princeton to go to seminary.
very
and-
impressive.
Yeah,
Masters
thank
in
you.
divinity.
Somebody liked your writings or what you were saying in your in
Yeah.
your preaching as a minister, youth
Yeah.
pastor and stuff.
Yes,
Wow, that's great.
I'll be pursuing my Master's of Divinity at Princeton, and so yeah, I'll be a full-time student there, and so I'll be taking a break from full-time ministry while I'm doing that. Although I'll have some opportunities for field experiences and things like that while I'm doing
You'll
that.
probably
and-
still write more books.
Yes,
right?
yeah,
More
yeah.
Oh,
poetry?
please do.
Oh yes, yeah, yeah. No, I probably won't be turning off the tap on that anytime soon. But the goal after that would be to continue to pursue ordination, to be ordained as a pastor, and then the long-term goal is to eventually plant my own church. So,
Oh, I was going to
Yeah.
just ask you what denomination are you working with?
Presbyterian Church of the USA.
Okay,
So yeah,
Presbyterian.
PCUSA.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm of I don't go to church as much as I should, but I'm Catholic, and I always like hearing other stories of how the other ministries work. Like, for instance, women, like
Oh,
you
sure.
can be
Yeah.
up there and doing the sermon, whereas in the Catholic Church they started it a little bit, but it's still mostly the guys.
Yeah.
You know, so I find that interesting. But that's what you were doing until now. You're going and you'll do it again.
Yep.
If you start
Mhm.
your own church, talk about that. How do you start your own ministry?
Yeah. So it's a long journey.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah, my husband and I, we have a vision and a dream of, we're really passionate about new expressions of the church. And so we don't want to just start another normal church, essentially.
Okay.
There's already plenty of those. And so we are really passionate about reaching out to communities, cultivating intentional communities, and reaching people where they are. And I know that a lot of the best conversations of my life have happened over a good cup of coffee. And so we have this vision and this dream of kind of starting up like a coffee shop cafe kind of thing that also has the functions of a church within it.
There's
That's
one in
interesting.
Arkansas like that.
Yes,
actually.
yeah.
I used to go to it.
Yeah.
Whenever I took breaks out there.
Yeah. So we kind of want to do something like similar to
What
that.
did Libby say? What did you say?
I said that's interesting.
Oh, I thought you
Sounds
said there
fun.
was one you know about it. Like, wait a minute.
No, it sounds a
Yeah.
lot of fun.
The-
Church I would like to go to, coffee and mingling and
Are
Right?
there? Is
Sounds
that a
fun to
new
me.
concept then? Is that something you're doing, or are you taking inspiration from somewhere?
So I actually it came to me in a dream.
That's so cool.
And I never remember my dreams ever. And so I woke up one day and I told my husband Lex about it, and he has a lot of barista experience, and he was like, yeah, that'd be cool. And so
What
then
does he do? Does he work with you, or was he working with you, or?
so he at the time he was the lead graphic designer at the church that I grew up at. Actually, he was working at a different church.
Okay.
And so we have done a lot of different ministry experiences together. At the time, we were working at two different churches, and so we were just talking about it, and he's like, yeah, I could do the coffee side of things, you could do the pastoral side of things,
That's
and
really
so
cool.
and it was wild because then after we were talking about that, then we started to hear about churches like that in Arkansas that kind of we're doing a similar concept, and it was oh, that's really cool that other people have thought of this kind of
They
community
ripped you
outreach.
Off. They ripped off your dream.
No,
What do you
no,
mean?
not at all.
No,
not at all.
they didn't rip it off.
Not
It's
at
just
all.
there's so many creative ways that people
Yeah.
create churches these days.
Absolutely.
I went to a house once, a mansion in Minnesota, and this person he just had a church in his basement, and yet he hired a pastor from the non-denominational background, and had 100 people in his basement at times. It was kind
Wow.
of interesting.
Okay.
So yeah,
Well-
there's
That's what I was going to ask. That brings up a good question of how does that work? How did they get it organized? Is there 501c3 stuff you do, or do you need permits to have the building? I've never
for
even
sure.
thought about
Yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah. So we wouldn't pursue it in the same way as a church where we would
Big
pursue
building.
we would pursue it more like a small business, and so we wouldn't do it in the way where churches are tax exempt and stuff like that, and so
Lindsay's coffee house and ministry.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to picture. Is it
Right,
gonna
I mean,
be-
that's kind of cool that you would forego the tax exempt for that, in
Right,
that sense.
right.
And I like that.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
really-
We would want to pursue it more so that we can be self-sustaining in that way, and be more of a small business that can also host community events and host groups like Alpha or other studies or
Yeah.
discussion groups, and
but you'd be willing-
have a church service on Sunday. But
Alpha's cool.
I love Alpha. I've taught it many times, and I think it's a fantastic program. And
We'll talk about that in a
Yeah,
second. But
yeah.
the point is, the question is about you'd pay taxes. It wouldn't be
Yeah.
like a nonprofit.
Right,
Like most
right.
churches are nonprofit.
right.
So what's the Alpha? Don't talk about that.
So Alpha is this incredible it's like a discipleship class program sort of thing. It's totally free. Lots of churches utilize it, and it's basically a fellowship group that gets together, and it's an intentional space where people can come and just talk about the big questions of faith.
Oh.
People come together and have dinner. There's a video program that goes along with it where it basically just breaks down the foundations of what is Christianity, what is faith, and just creates a space where people can just talk about these things in a completely judgment-free space.
Where do you go to do that? Like a restaurant, a banquet hall?
It can happen anywhere.
Church?
So people can look up on the Alpha website and look up where Alpha course is happening in my area. Churches can put it on the Alpha website if they're hosting one, and people can look it up and find it. Or often churches will advertise it themselves if they're running one. And so it's pretty accessible to find it when it's
Okay.
being run, and it's really, really cool. And they have it for adults and for students as well. I'm a big fan of the student one. It makes it really, really accessible for.
It sounds
for
kind of like
people.
a fraternity or sorority type deal, but no, it's not. It
No, yeah. It kind of sounds like
It's
it. Yeah.
small groups kind of in a
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
before we go off onto those topics, I just want to ask what are the main themes of both of your books? I
totally.
know the title kind of gives a vibe to what you think it's
For
about.
sure.
I was
Yeah.
going to bring that up in a second, but yeah, go ahead. It's a good time to talk about. You wrote a few books here, not just one.
Yeah.
And you're
So
thinking about writing more.
yeah. So I wrote 2 books this year, which was not on my to-do list this year at all. So I'll start with Captive because that was the one that came first.
You can hold it up. We've got camera right over there.
Oh, right
It's
over
right there. No, it's right there.
Oh, right there. Hello.
Right in front of you.
So
We're there too.
yeah. So
That one sees Libby and you too. Yeah.
So
Mhm.
Captive was my first book. So it came out this April, and I was not planning on writing a book at all. But then this past December, I was struck with one of many chronic migraines that still has not gone away since December. I've struggled with chronic migraine like my whole life, basically.
That can be rough.
Oh, for sure.
Weren't you a cancer survivor?
Yes.
You know?
Oh yeah, I was going to ask about that. Did your health incident, did that inspire anything in the books or just in what you're working on?
Yeah.
Was that part of the chronic migraines?
No. So they don't think that that my cancer history has anything to do with the migraines.
I just didn't know if it was attached.
Yeah.
at
No.
all.
That's a totally fair question.
Yeah.
But yeah. So my migraine journey is what inspired Captive.
Awesome.
So about a month after this migraine started, it's had me in and out of the hospital multiple times.
Oh
It's
my
had
goodness.
me rejected by doctors, rejected by insurance, like all this kind of stuff. It put me like in a really low mental state.
Oh, here it is right here. It's right on the back of your book.
Yeah.
Captive, a collection of poems by Lindsay Gordon.
Mm-hmm.
And it's saying right there, inspired by your own journey with chronic migraines. Lindsay Gordon explores the emotional turmoil of experiencing chronic pain. Imprisoned by pain himself, she ponders the depths of her own suffering, all the while longing to be reunited with her love, freedom. Despite being trapped in the prison cell of her own body, the hope of release, however small, keeps her fighting. So that's great. Wow. That's great. I want you to read some stuff here. We'll get to that in a minute.
Sure. Yeah.
So go ahead. I didn't interrupt the story.
No, you're good.
So that's the book.
Yeah. So
that's one of the books. We have another one.
Yeah. So I started writing Captive one night in January while the migraine was keeping me up one night. Once again, like I deal with migraine-induced insomnia, and so it was like 3 a.m.
You seem
I
fine
couldn't
now.
sleep. Yeah, I'm really good at faking it. Migraine, having chronic migraine will do that to you. But I was up, and all of a sudden, like this mental picture of me inside this prison cell like popped into my mind, and like I was just kind of pondering it, and like it just became so visceral and real to me, and like just almost
tangible.
Yeah. And I didn't want to forget it, and just like this rush of inspiration just hit me. And since I had just recently started therapy, I actually started therapy the day that the migraine started, which was wild. I had a notebook near me because my therapist had assigned me homework. And so I had my therapy notebook by me. And so I grabbed my notebook, I had a pen nearby, and I just start like scribbling in the dark. And I'm like trying to not wake my husband and my dog. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to try to chicken scratch this down. And it was this process for hours then, like rinse and repeat. Like I would put it down, I would try to go back to sleep, and then like the world just kept building.
I get you.
And yeah. And like there I am in the prison cell, and then all of a sudden it was like, what if the prison warden is pain, and pain is a person, and like
that's deep.
And what if freedom is like my lover that I'm trying to get back to, and what if the raw emotions of despair and shame that have been tormenting me while I've been fighting this are like the guards that are mocking me from the outside of my cell, like, and like the world just kept building. And so like I just kept grabbing my notebook and writing it down. And then the next morning I get up and I'm looking through the notebook, and after some caffeinated interpretation of my chicken scratch, I realized that I had written 17 poems that night.
I was going to say, you have quite a few in here. It's a whole book.
There's 200 in there.
You didn't do that in one night.
I didn't do that in one night.
I was going to say, wait a minute. Okay.
I didn't do that in one night. I did this in 2 months.
But 17 in one night and 2 months to do the whole thing. That's a
yeah,
lot.
yeah. And so what was funny was I was talking to a very dear friend of mine the next day, my friend Nikki, who was also a published poet, Nikki Merriman. She
Awesome.
has 6 books out there.
Oh, wow.
And she's also self-published, and she also has chronic migraine. And so I was
That's
talking to her. Yeah, I was talking to her about it and just telling her about what had happened the night before. And I was I was like, did I just start writing a book? And she's like, I think you did. and so I'm like, okay. Like, and so I like, and
I'm
at
gonna
that
roll
point,
with it.
yeah, I like at that point, like I still wasn't even thinking about publishing. Like
I
I
was
was
gonna say,
just,
this really wasn't planned to do it
no,
at that time.
no, not at all. And so I was just kind of like, I think I'll just keep seeing where this goes. And so then like after a couple more days, like 17 poems turned into 50. And then after a few more days, 50 turned into 100. And then like it just kind of kept going. And so then
Once the bug hits.
yeah. And so then it was actually that February, I was back in the hospital again. And
Wow.
that's when I finished my first draft. And Nikki came and she had visited me multiple times when I was in there. I was in there for 2 weeks, and that's when she showed me the ropes of self-publishing. That's when my husband, who I mentioned, he's a graphic designer, he designed the covers, and so we sat while I was in my hospital bed, and he was messing with cover design, and
Wow.
I had sketched it out on a napkin, and I was kind of like, this is kind of what I'm thinking. I can't draw to save my life.
That was this year you said you did this now,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Okay. Just want to be clear.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
fairly recent.
Yeah. And so he took my chicken scratch napkin and then came up with that, and I'm like, that's exactly what I was thinking. And like,
Which publishing company did you go to?
I used Ingram Spark.
Ingram Spark.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
there, so
Check that out.
we don't have to get too much into it, but how does that process work? You go and instead of waiting for like Houghton Mifflin, or well, no, that's textbook, but like one of the big ones, like Harper
Right.
and Collins, to come to you,
Right.
or a literary agent, you literally go to these companies, say, "Here's my manuscript.
Yeah.
This is what I want."
Yeah. So you upload your manuscript yourself. They have a completely free book building tool that you can use.
Okay.
And so you still have to pursue your own copyright and everything. So
Okay.
like you take care of that on your end, but
I got mine
Um,
for Henry. I can't wait to print that.
oh, awesome. Yeah.
You got your copyright too?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
okay. That's what I was going to ask. The self-publishers don't necessarily help you get all the legal stuff done. Then You gotta
Right.
do that on
Right.
your
You
own.
do that yourself. But
It's easy.
yeah.
Though.
It's pretty easy. It's just like an application through the government website, and
Takes like a couple weeks to get back to you,
Yeah,
and then they send
yeah.
you a letter.
yeah. And so so you take care of that yourself, but then on their website, like they have like a pretty user-friendly, self-guided book building tool where like you upload your files. They kind of guide you through like certain templates that you can use to build the interior of your book, and then uploading your cover. And then they send you like an e-proof that you can look through and see like this is what your book will look like, and then you can approve it, and then you have a book. And then
Wow.
they distribute it for you.
They are.
So it's a print on demand service, and
Okay.
so
So it's on demand with
So
this
as
one.
Yes,
Okay, that's
yeah.
cool. That's cool.
and so
they'll
as
print it
people
for
order
you.
it, they'll print it for you.
and
so
do they give you like split it with you, or
yeah, so that's the one thing that like, since it's print on demand, like they do take a bigger cut
Yeah.
than like going through like a literary agent or something like that. But the nice thing about it is that you don't have to handle like buying a huge inventory of your book up front and then dealing with like distributing your own stock and stuff like that.
I got
So
it.
it's kind of like, which way do you want to handle it kind of thing. And so it is nice, like, if you're not trying to be like the next New York Times bestselling author or something like that, it is kind of nice to
Why
just
not?
like, I mean, this is just for the joy of it for me. And so
Okay.
like just being able to share it and, be able to talk to people and hear people's stories. And
Joe writes too, but you're writing music. You're not writing books, right?
She writes some killer poems. I've been on her Instagram. Yeah, I write things. I write books. But that's why she edited my book, and that's why.
Okay. I thought it was
yeah.
a music for music, but it's an actual book then.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No, I reached out to her because she said that she would edit, and I was like, perfect.
What's your book? Now we're getting way off the subject here, but real quick,
that was
book
back
is-
when I was a drug addict and an atheist.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. I know
Basically.
we've talked about we did.
Yeah, pretty
Joe
much.
first came on, he told us, but I don't remember talking about the book. But anyway, so
Yeah. I wrote a book. It was like 100 pages. I put it out, but like No, she put full on effort into that, and that's cool. That's kind of why I wanted to, like, after seeing her do that, like, it inspired me all the more, because like 2 years ago I wrote Henry the Hyper Hippo, but then like I sat on it, and then seeing you actually like print those and push those out, that inspired me to like put that out. You know,
Oh,
so
wow.
I'm
You're
I'm getting closer and
inspiration for
closer to
Joe.
put that out. You know, like
I want to. I don't know if I'm getting too ahead again, but I want to make sure we get your other book in.
Yeah.
So, because you did 2 in a year. That's
Yeah.
pretty impressive.
Yeah. So yeah, Dear Younger Me just came out earlier this August.
I'll hold
So
that one up now. Hold on.
yeah. Oh
There we
yeah.
yeah.
I can hold this up over
Yeah.
here. There we go.
There we go.
I like that cover too.
Yeah.
Also done by your husband, I'm guessing.
Yes.
He's a great
yeah.
designer.
Yeah, he
Like,
really
wow.
is. He really is. So we actually, the picture on the cover, we took that picture in my aunt's backyard. And then the handwriting on the cover is mine. So he like
Oh.
scanned that and then put that in.
That's cool.
That's wicked. That's cool.
Yeah,
I like that.
yeah. So that was really fun to collaborate on
Hold
that.
up again. Right in front of me.
Yeah. And so once the floodgates opened after writing Captive, I
couldn't stop?
I could not stop writing. And so
Wow.
so with the writing practices that I had learned from the professor that I had mentioned, like I try to write every day, even if it's just for 5 minutes. And so I keep notebooks with me everywhere. I have multiple notes files on my phone. I do voice memos. I text myself. Like anytime I have an idea strike me, I just try to write it down as soon as I can.
I mean, that's great.
And
That's
so,
how you got to do it.
Exactly. Because like, I mean, I'm the type of person that if I have an idea and I don't write it down right away, it will leave my brain.
It's
and
gone,
then I'll
right?
just be like, no, what was it? And so
I record things if I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
have anything to write.
if I
I'm
like, yeah,
like-
if I can't write it down immediately, I'll try to record it or something.
Mhm.
The
Um,
iPhone is a great tool.
Absolutely.
Or the phones in general, right? Take a
Yeah.
little
Oh my
notes.
goodness. Yeah.
For some
it's-
reason, my
Audio
notes app
notes.
won't open. So like,
Oh,
I
gosh.
have to record it.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to do what you got to do. And so after
this one was after you were in the hospital.
that was after
Well,
I was
actually,
in the
both
hospital.
of them were after you were in the hospital.
Yeah, yeah. And so so I kept writing, and I always handwrite my poems first, and then I kind of like categorize them into these. I have like multiple Google Docs that like they're kind of organized by theme, where I'll just write about anything, and then as I'm typing them up for the first time and kind of doing a first edit on them, then I'll kind of categorize them.
I'm sure like
And-
inspiring authors want to hear this stuff. This
Yeah,
is very
yeah.
inspirational, you know, the youth pastor going through the experience with the health and everything. Now going to Princeton and doing this. This is great. I
Oh,
love it.
thank you.
So
Yeah.
anyway,
and so,
sorry. So the Google Docs. and-
yeah. So then with Dear Younger Me, I had a Google Doc that was running where like I had this idea that I wanted to dedicate a book one day to my nieces and nephews. And I wanted it to be like life lessons that I had learned, wisdom that I wanted to pass down, like some kind of legacy that I wanted to pass on to them. And so with that Google Doc that I had that, you know, became the first rough draft of Dear Younger Me,
Yeah.
once I got to a certain point in it where, I mean, I think I got to like 75 to 100 poems in that Google Doc, I was like, okay, like now I want to focus on this one.
I-
How many
I
are in
like
that
what you-
one now?
I like what you wrote here. Life is a journey of continually learned lessons. In Dear Younger Me, your book by Lindsay Gordon, you address your inner child with lessons that you've learned throughout your life, ranging from friendships, love, forgiveness, self-worth, relationships, family, and everything in between. So that's,
Yeah.
I mean, that's that's the thing. A lot of stuff comes from, I think writers, you know, they use their own experiences, and then obviously
Yeah.
it turns into whatever it's going to turn into. And yours is a lot of poems.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, so that's really where this one came from. And the reason why it came out so quickly.
That's what I want to ask. These came out pretty quick.
Yeah. So
Once
Are
poetry
you going to do
gets
like
flowing,
one?
it keeps
you know,
going.
Are you going to have like 10 books in the next 2 years or what during college?
I
too?
mean, yeah, now that I'm starting my master's degree, probably not, but we'll see. Never say
They're
never
gonna be
say
like
never.
shorter books. They're
They're
gonna be little
they're-
novellas.
Yeah,
Right, right.
It'll be like 10 pages instead
Right.
of 200 or something.
One of the poems is "I'm stressed, lots of work."
This is hard.
No words.
By Lindsay Gordon. Love that.
What am I doing?
Oh, man. That's funny. So okay. So anyway,
Yeah, so
about
this
the-
one
the
came out
second
pretty
book.
quickly. Like, yeah, so I got to a certain point in the rough draft of it. Like once I decided that like I'm gonna focus on this one. I think it was around the end of May, beginning of June. Like once I knew that Princeton was happening, before we had announced it publicly yet. We like my husband and I were talking about it. I had this shower thought, you know how those happen. Where
I always
we-
forget when I get out of the shower, but yeah, I do
yeah,
know what you're
yeah.
talking
I
So-
dissociate the shower. I just look at a wall.
Yeah. I'm in there spinning like a rotisserie chicken, and I'm just thinking. And we had a big celebration with Captive. Like we did like a big book release party, and I was thinking about how if we're gonna go to Princeton, we're probably gonna have like a going away party of some kind. And so I'm like, it would be really cool if we could also still celebrate the release of the next book with everybody before we go.
about. Okay.
And so as I was thinking, I'm like, if I publish it after we leave, like that would still be cool, but it would still be awesome to celebrate it since it's a book for family, if we can celebrate it with family. And
That'd be
so I was like, okay, so like if I have the goal of publishing it in August before we go, like then I kind of need to crank on this.
Yeah, boy,
And so-
you're really rushing it. That one.
And so then I reached out to my editor, who is absolutely wonderful. She's a freelance editor. Her website is Melissa Proofreads. She's fantastic. I will work with her forever. She's freelance and she's a teacher, so she's off in the summer. And so I reached out to her and I was like, hey, I'm working on this new project. It kind of has a tight turnaround time. Are you up for it? And she was like, yeah,
Let's roll.
let's do it.
Okay.
And so I'm like, okay, you're the best. And I sent her,
Give me that info.
yeah. Oh, she's fantastic. And I sent her my manuscript. She worked through the whole thing with fantastic feedback, like really, really thorough, like did not skimp on anything in less than a week, got it back to me. I worked through all her changes in a couple of days, sent it back to her because she'll do like a second revision for you. And she got it back to me 2 days later.
Wow. Whoa.
Like
She
was,
must get paid well.
oh my goodness. And
She likes the bumps.
yeah, oh my goodness, like I'm like, you're the best. Like it was just incredible. And so she was up for the challenge, and I'm like, I don't pay you enough. Like you are incredible. And so like I was so thankful that she was up for it. And
She helped you on the first book too?
she did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I will work with her as long as she's willing to work with me. Like she's just amazing. And so I was really thankful.
Were you talking to her when you said you were in the hospital for at least this one?
Yeah.
Were you trying to write while you're in the hospital then?
I was writing while I was in the
You
hospital.
were? Okay.
Yeah.
'Cause I was
Yeah.
kind of trying to like, wait a minute, how long were you in the hospital again? What'd you say?
The last time I was in there for about 2 weeks.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's not like a day.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he just had a little stay, a couple stays in the
Oh,
hospital
gosh.
Yeah,
himself.
that's what I said at the top of the broadcast. It's I'm doing a lot better than I was 7 weeks ago.
Oh man.
Yeah, no, I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I don't
it's
ever
not
want to
good.
go back.
Yeah, it's not
But
good.
it sounds like you had a few.
Yeah. This migraine has had me in. I was in the ER once. I was inpatient for 4 days once, and then inpatient for 2 weeks.
And then
Yeah.
you mentioned cancer. How were you dealing with writing during that, or were you kind of not
That
able
was
to do
way
much during
way
that
on.
period?
Yeah. So I've been cancer free for 11 years now. I was 19 when I was diagnosed. So I was still at Olivet when I
Oh,
had
okay.
cancer,
So you
and
weren't writing these books.
I
That
wasn't
was a
writing
while
these
ago.
books. Yeah. I was doing a lot of college writing, and a lot of just personal journaling. But yeah, I mean, writing is an outlet just personally. Just like keeping a journal was really therapeutic for me. I mean, even though
That's
I
what I was
wasn't.
going to bring
yeah.
up. Did it help with like some kind of therapy for
Yeah.
that?
Oh, truly,
treatment and everything? Yeah.
truly. Yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah. Just being able to reflect and just throw up my words and my frustrations on paper, like it was really, really helpful.
So that was a while ago, but
yes,
the migraines you're still dealing with then.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hmm.
How, like, what on a scale of how bad is the pain?
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you think about
basis?
writing when you're like, you can't even focus and it's like
Yeah.
hitting your head, like, somebody's hitting you in the head?
Yeah. So thankfully the pain severity ebbs and flows.
Okay.
And so Like
At least it's
like
not full spike.
yeah, yeah. Like if it's full spike, like I'm
You wouldn't
knocked
be able to
out.
be sitting here.
Yeah, no, yeah. If it's full spike, I'm like
Can
down
you
for the
go to
count.
class? I mean, you're going back to
I'm
school
gonna have
full
to.
time. What, do you just take a break? And
Yeah,
you gotta go
I'm-
get some meds or something?
Yeah, I mean,
Definitely
I'm
ready
bring a
for that?
doctor's note.
I mean, I'm really good at faking it till I make it, and so it's like,
You
you
might not
just
be thinking about everything they're saying, right?
Right, I
turn the
mean-
recorder on, maybe if they allow
yeah,
that.
yeah. I mean, you just got to do what you got to do. I mean, I've been getting migraines most of my life, and so I'm used to having to just find a way to function through it.
Okay.
And so I mean, if I'm at like a 4, which is like pretty much what I'm at right now, like
Okay.
I can function through a 4.
On a scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So,
What are you at
Yeah.
normally? Is it normal 4 or
4
like
is pretty much my baseline.
Okay.
But
but
yeah,
taking an aspirin here and there doesn't really do anything.
that does
does it?
nothing for me.
Jeez.
Yeah.
that never did anything for me anyways
Yeah,
either. Like
yeah, that
I
does
never really
absolutely
felt
nothing
an
for me.
aspirin or a Tylenol.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, the
I wish it
Tylenol's
worked
supposed-
for me.
I
Yeah.
know,
right?
Tylenol's supposed to kill the pain, but it doesn't,
Right,
obviously it's not.
right.
It doesn't
Yeah.
help enough.
Yeah, yeah.
So, like the therapy for that, I mean, other than just relaxing and doing the poetry writing, I mean, how do you deal with that then? I mean, are you supposed to put a mask on or take a lot of medication? What do you do?
Yeah, like they're
You
trying
do
to find
yoga. I mean, how do you?
Right, yeah. I've been trying to find like a medical regimen that can work as like a preventative measure. Like rescue medications haven't really been working for me. They've been trying to find different ones that work for me, but nothing has really come around for that yet.
Maybe when you're just focusing on the poetry and thinking about what's on the page, it takes you away from it a little bit.
I mean, yeah, it does at least help take my mind off it. Like it definitely doesn't help to just like sit and focus on it. But I mean, I do definitely I mean, I love doing stuff like yoga or like prayerful meditation. I have like an acupressure mat that sometimes I'll like lay on and just try to
I'm just
connect with my body more. Like, I mean, the pain definitely has created like a sense of dissociation between me and my body. Where it's like I just feel this disconnect where it's like and like I wrote about this quite a bit in Captive, where it's just like a sense of like betrayal from my body.
you're like looking
and
at
so-
yourself.
Yeah,
from outside.
and it's like this thing that's supposed to be this sacred space that is supposed to be my ally.
Almost feels like a broken vessel.
Yeah,
Well, like
yeah.
everybody has issues
Yeah.
in their businesses, in radio broadcasting. They got all kinds of stress going on, but you just deal with it. But this one is like physically, like it's hard to focus. That's why I'm
Yeah,
like really
yeah.
fascinated how well
Yeah.
you can handle this.
Yeah,
2
I mean,
books in a year.
years
I
of
mean, right there.
practice.
Going to school. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like, wow. Again, we're
Yeah.
talking with Miss Lindsay Gordon, and she's actually a good friend of Joe. People are
Well,
just
yeah, I've
maybe
known it for
tuning in.
years.
Yeah, have
Definitely.
you? Well, no. I for people who've been listening, they know that. But in case they haven't been, I wanted to know if you're okay with reading some stuff from either one of the books. Doesn't
Please
matter
do.
which
Sure.
one.
Yeah.
But you're in the middle of finishing off the story about how you're dealing with it. So.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I mean, what I'm really grateful for, especially with Captive, is that I had just with life being life and everything, and a sense of busyness and everything. Like I had gotten away from creative writing for a while.
Well, that's not
or
good.
like
Well, you were being a teacher and then a minister.
yeah, life and like my husband and I had only recently gotten married, and there had just life happened, and all these things, and
All the wedding planning.
yeah, and then him getting hit by cars and stuff.
Yeah,
and
that stuff, that whole
You didn't
thing.
tell that story on me. Your husband was in a bad accident.
yeah. So my husband's a cyclist, and he had gotten into a bad accident.
I gotta say,
2 weeks
that's
before our
awesome.
wedding.
That's awesome that he's such a hardcore biker.
He
It
really, yeah,
so
he
cool.
is. He's crazy. But yeah. So I mean, there's just been a lot, and so like there had been a period of time where I hadn't been writing as much. Like a lot of my time spent writing had been for like sermon writing and stuff like that, which I still really enjoy.
You should
And
do a book about those.
maybe there will be. And so, but I mean, I love doing that, but like it still was like, I'm writing for work. I'm not writing for me. And so,
True. That's more focused on.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
more your job, I
and
guess.
so,
yeah.
and like, but like, that was still another sense of like, I realized like I'm making excuses again, and so like, once I started writing Captive, then it felt like regaining a sense of my old self, getting back to this thing that I love to do. And it just really felt like a victory over pain in that way, and just something that pain can't take away from me. And like looking at these two books in front of me, like pain can't take this away from me. And
this reminds me again. Maybe I got the ADD like Joe always talks about having, but this reminds me of a scene from the movie Star Trek V with William Shatner and the character playing Spock's brother. He's like, I need my pain, so
right, yeah,
because in the movie they're taking away. He's got some kind of thing where he mesmerizes people, Spock's brother, and takes away their pain. And Captain Kirk's like, I need my pain. So there you go.
Yeah.
And it helps him. Obviously, look, he's captain of a starship. So
right.
I mean, if you live without pain, have you ever really lived?
Oh,
I
there you
mean-
go. There you go. That's a good way to look at it.
I mean, scars tell stories, and so it's like, yeah,
That's the
I mean,
reality.
I've definitely had some pain over my lifetime.
Haven't we all, right?
right, yeah,
Physical, mental, whatever it is, it's something that keeps you going, right?
for sure.
So, do you want? We have a few minutes left. Do you want to read some excerpts, specific
Yeah,
ones?
I'd be
Were you
happy
thinking
to.
about reading some?
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
I'd like you to.
Yeah,
Which
Yeah,
one are
if
we
you
going to
wanna read
do?
one from each?
I
If
can
that's cool.
read one from each.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, let's see.
Well,
I
let's
can
start with
Captive.
again. We're with Miss Lindsay Gordon, author, and
This is
a
her
lot of
first
other
one
things
she
that-
wrote.
we're going
Yeah,
to
I can-
Princeton, and now she's going to read from Captive.
Let's see.
Which one do we want? I kind of caught her off guard. I was going to mention it before we get on the air, but I figured I'll just let her do it.
Well, they're right in front of her, so that's perfect.
There we go, yeah.
Yes, because I didn't have a chance to preview just what I saw a little bit online. Now they give you the little preview, but that I didn't get to see the whole book. So.
You could also follow her social media. Isn't it Lines by Linz?
Lines by Linz.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, I wanted to
Yeah.
bring that up. Let's see what.
All right.
That's
So
her website is Lines by Linz, LIN. Wait, yeah, LINDS. I want to make sure I
Yes.
got that right.
yeah. So I can do one from each. So
Awesome.
so here's one from Captive. I used to dance with freedom until pain cut in and forced me to leave. Freedom called after me, but pain kept me from looking back. Freedom threw rocks at my window, but pain's searchlight found freedom every time he tried to spring me from my cell. Freedom wrote me love letters. Pain burned them, the ashes of sweet promises slipping through my fingers. I have been pain's hostage for so long that I can no longer remember the color of freedom's eyes.
Wow. That's deep.
Yeah.
Okay, you got to get this book, everybody. It's Captive by Lindsay Gordon. And then before we go, we got a few more minutes. Like I want to hear one from this because this
Yeah.
is the one like the family helped inspire that one. you're
Yes,
saying.
yeah.
cool.
So this is the one for my nieces and nephews.
Dear Younger
Dear
Me.
me.
Yeah.
And so the structure between both of them is a little bit different. So Captive follows more of a story arc from start to finish, where it follows like the prison metaphor. Whereas Dear Younger Me is just anything and everything. So it's very, very different thematically and structurally.
You
but
can literally pick up any page and it's not like you're missing something.
yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Captive is has more of a storyline. It has
You
more
got
of
to
a through
follow
line.
it. I got it.
And then Dear Younger Me doesn't as much. And so
I like that you're utilizing different formats for that, you know?
it's been fun to explore that.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
and all of the family influenced you here, but they didn't write anything for you, did they?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still all
Yeah.
you. Okay.
Yeah. So this one's actually my favorite from Dear Younger Me. So I always loved chasing fireflies those summer nights of my childhood, but now I feel as though I am the firefly on the inside of the jar. Displaced in a familiar yet foreign environment, barely given enough to survive, completely out of my element, feeling pressured to perform with every tap, tap, tap on the side of the glass. What I wouldn't give to be back outside on a warm June evening without a care in the world but searching for the next yellow glow.
Wow.
Epic.
This is great. I love it. Everybody definitely has to go out and get Miss Lindsay Gordon's book. Here, I'm going to hold them up again because we're on video too on YouTube. It's Captive, which she wrote in January and in February. And then here, it's still 2024, and she's already written Dear Younger Me. And I'm sure there'll be many more to come. And oh, by the way, where do they get them? We mentioned it earlier. Let's mention it again.
Yeah, so you can find them anywhere you can find books online, Amazon or Barnes & Noble online, Target online. Yeah, they aren't physically in bookstores, but you can find them anywhere online.
I was going to mention that.
I do
you got to
have-
order them online.
Yes, yeah, I do have links to Amazon and Barnes & Noble on my website.
And the website
then,
again?
linesbylinz.com. And then you can also
Instagram.
follow me on Instagram at linesbylinz, and you can also find me on Goodreads.
Awesome. What is real quick? What is that last one you're talking about? Is that-
Yeah, Goodreads is basically like a social media format for books.
Okay.
So
People
you
rate
can-
the books, basically.
Yeah, people can rate books and like add books to their bookshelves, like
Okay.
upload what they're currently reading, what they want to read, all those kinds of things.
I've heard of it. I haven't
Yeah.
looked at it, but I will now. 'cause
It's
I
cool
wanna get your
looking,
book.
honestly.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm guessing Joe's is on there too.
No,
No, not yet.
I've only just pushed stuff out on Amazon. I've
All
never
right.
gotten into like learning more. Like I didn't look into anything. I just kind of went to KDP, which
But
KDP
to get it on
is-
Goodreads, people have to like submit stuff, right? Or the actual
So,
author does too.
Well-
So I actually didn't like, as long as your book has an
ISBN.
then it'll be
Yeah,
on
there we go.
Yeah.
And if you go to KDP, it doesn't necessarily have that ISBN that you need. Like I think it has an ISBN, but it doesn't necessarily. So it might be on Goodreads.
It might be.
I don't know, but I've
Well,
got
anyway.
on Amazon. It's got reviews.
So we just have
You
to
should look
up-
yourself up on Goodreads, see if you're on there.
I
Yeah.
guess, right?
We could find you just by your name, I suppose, if they look up Lindsay. I want to make sure I spell it right. Lindsay
Yes,
Gordon.
yeah.
I'm sure they can find it too.
Yeah, yeah.
So anyway, thank you very much for coming in. I'm glad Joe
Thank you
told
for
me about
having
you.
me.
Have a great trip, great move. Good luck at Princeton, and definitely come back and tell with the next book.
Thank
Yeah,
you very much.
come on back.
I plan on being here a while, so we'll see you again, I'm sure. But thanks again for being here. Again, our guest was Miss Lindsay Gordon. Thanks to Joe for bringing her in here and being here as well. And then, of course, thanks, Libby. Hey,
It
Libby.
was fun. It was interesting.
Yeah,
I listened.
Lindsay, she was listening very closely. I was watching her. And everybody, make sure you tune into Intellectual Radio, listen to all the great shows. And, of course, Bell and Company, you're going to find us on Intellectual Radio, all of the podcast sites, and soon to be MarioJBell.com. I'm working on it, so we'll have that soon, too.
Woot woot.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Everybody take care, and we'll
Bye,
talk to you
later.
next time.